for the longest time, when I was younger, all the way into my adult life, I always seemed to be real pessimistic. I always seemed to look for the fault in things, look for how things weren't going to work out. And I learned this from various family members. And, if you're an angsty kid or you just feel like you got to act out, you want to be anti whatever's going on sometimes. And it really does start to become this habit. It becomes this, it becomes part of your personality, right? And when we move on in life and grow older, that sense of that, well, things are fucked up. This isn't right. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This isn't right. It kind of starts to just solidify in your mind, and it really informs your worldview and how you're going to live. And I've lived that way for a long time. And slowly it started to become how I viewed the entire world and the future of the world and how things are going. And I know a lot of people out there have been blackpilled. I know a lot of people, with all the things that have been going on politically and socially, it's hard to see that there's any hope, right? We've been demoralized, and it just seems like no matter which way we go, we're going to lose this, we're going to lose that. We're not going to be able to live freely. We're not going to be able to own our homes, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very blackpilling, and it's very, very grim. And I'm not going to deny any of those things. I'm not going to throw logic to the wind and just say, "Oh no, guys, it's all sunshine and roses and it's all fine." But as I've progressed in my self-improvement journey, and as I've, studied philosophy, especially Stoic philosophy and other things, I just kind of realize that being black-pilled about the world and politics or women and dating, or just being nihilistic and defeatist and this feeling of powerlessness and fuck it, I am not going to be able to change anything or do anything or improve myself, that even though that's based in logic and reason, because things are very obviously terrible, that it is completely pointless. It is completely useless to be blackpilled. It is completely useless to be a nihilist. And even if it's based in truth, it gets you nothing of real value. And it's not like the truth needs to, in and of itself, have value inherently. I mean, I think that searching for truth is very important. But I look at it from a practical standpoint. And this had come to mind, that there was a philosopher that was like, you should believe in God just in case there is a God. So you should be, you should, act morally and righteous just in case, because that's the only option. Pascal's wager, I looked it up. Yeah, Pascal's wager. That, if we don't know for certain if there is a God or there isn't a God, right? And so we should just act like there is a God, because if there is one, then we gain immeasurably. And if we acted like there wasn't a God and there is one and we've been sinful, then we're going to pay a massive, massive price, right? This is assuming that his worldview was there's a hell. And if there isn't a God and you acted morally the whole time, then, well, yeah, you didn't get to enjoy some of life's pleasures, but ultimately you still led a good life, decent life. And you didn't miss out on that much. And if you, lived like a hedonist and there was no God, yeah, you got a bunch of pleasure, but ultimately you're still dead and it's all over anyway. And so this Pascal's wager thing, it's almost like that's how I've come to view the world. And it's hard and difficult to continue to be optimistic, but it's like it's like instead of Pascal's wager, it's the optimism wager that maybe, just maybe, things will work out. Maybe, just maybe, things will turn around with, the way government is being run, with the way society is, with the sexual marketplace, or, corporations and governments and banks controlling, everything, and special interests and all this stuff and all the endless wars, et cetera, et cetera. That maybe it will turn around. Maybe things will work out. Maybe there are some ways that we can fix these things, that slowly over time we can figure it out. And if that's true, then we need to be acting like it. We need to be working as if, living as if that's going to happen, and not or living as if it's possible. Because if you kind of give up and say, well, I'm not going to change who I am or how I live or the things that I do because it's all meaningless, then it's like, well, if there was a chance and everybody's given up, then it's definitely never going to happen. But if we're all changing our lives for ourselves, not insinuating that you or I are going to single-handedly solve all the world's problems, because that's also impossible. It's ridiculous. But that if we all continually start moving towards that and working towards that, improving our, morals, improving our, the way that we relate to each other, trying to improve our financial situations, continually becoming more aware of how fucked up things are and what we can actually do to mitigate the negative outcomes of those things, how we can try to figure out how to get around it. If we're all working towards solutions, acting as if maybe there is a solution, then the chances of getting a solution are great. But if we are all giving up, if we are all demoralized, if we are all losing hope, then it really is over. And it's just not practical. It's just not useful to be nihilistic, because we have to just at least do what we can to try to make something positive happen. And it's also a sense of that it's like what feels best, even if because I can hear the argument, and I've probably had this argument in the past too, like, oh, you're just being positive. Being positive is cringe. Like, you're just lying to yourself. You're just making yourself feel good in the moment, believing that this is okay or this is fine. And the thought comes to mind that it's like, well, yeah. Do you think that it's good for the human psyche to give up hope and to give up optimism and to give up the thought that we can fix this, we can make things work, we can put in the effort and make this happen? It's good to kill that. It's good that everybody that has hope or is working and striving towards bettering things at least a little bit, doing whatever they can, that those people are delusional and pathetic. They should be as depressed as I am. They should, if they were smart, they would give up and live a life of hedonism like me, if they were smart. But they're pathetic losers, so that's why they believe in the future. And there are some people out there like that. And I was never that super extreme to be resentful towards other people that have hope, but it was more of like, well, I know that there's really no future, nihilism. If you guys remember Kierkegaard, that like animated YouTube channel that talks about nihilism and stuff. Well, or it did. There was this video that like went around. It was like, uh, I forget if it was like optimistic nihilism or something like that. And I was like, yeah, yeah, this is totally up my alley because I had sort of drifted towards atheism after being out of school for a while because I had gone to Christian school all my life. And it wasn't out of anger. It was just, I kind of slowly just started questioning and started drifting towards atheism. And then, you know, that video comes up. It's like, wow, it's animated and it's got cute little pictures and stuff. And yeah, optimistic nihilism, that sounds cool. Yeah, nothing really matters. And, really ultimately it's all worthless and meaningless. And that kind of attitude has kind of drifted into just a hardcore, nothing's going to work out, I think, in the minds of my generation and younger. Because there are a lot of odds stacked against us. There is a lot of stuff going on, BlackRock buying up all the houses or whatever, and just kind of finally seeing like how things are operating and the loss of freedom of speech and stuff like that. And it's grim for sure. There's no denying that, but I see that there's a drive in the masses to solve this and to fix this. And it's hard, it's tough. And I'm not even saying get super involved in politics because I was, and it's like most of politics you cannot solve. There's no amount of worrying about it or thinking about it or staying up late at night or watching debates or whatever. It's no amount of that is really going to change it massively. But what I'm saying is that being optimistic and being like, I think if certain things change, this can be solved. We can figure something out. And then you change your life, you live your life as authentically as you can and try to live by those ideals as best you can and help other people that feel the same way you do to encourage them to just start living, forget what the rules are, forget what the government is telling you, forget what culture or whatever is telling you, and just live the way you want to live. And it will be difficult, but let's just keep moving forward and try to change myself, change my friend group, change my small community, and that grows and that starts to change the culture as a whole. And that's ultimately all we can do. And so I feel like optimism is the only option. And so it's the optimism wager that maybe it can work out. So let's just act like it can work out and get to work changing our own personal lives and building communities and continue to change the culture as best we can.